And hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of First and 10 with Keith Harrington. I'm your host, Keith Harrington, here on NYVT Media Sports. And a big weekend coming up this weekend. It is semifinal time in high school football, and we will be at Fonda-Fultonville on Friday night as Granville-Whitehall takes on Fonda-Fultonville in the Class C semifinals. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We're going to have some members of the Fonda-Fultonville coaching staff and team coming up later in the show. We're also going to talk with Granville-Whitehall's CJ Monty, and we'll do that a little bit later on in the program as well. But right now, let's take a look back at last week's games. Class B still had regular season games to go. Class D schools played crossovers, but it was playoff time in Class C. And last Saturday, in a game heard right here on NYVT Media Sports, Granville-Whitehall making history, recording the first ever playoff win ever here at Sam Eppolito Field with a 34-14 win over the Sir Bills of Johnstown. And hard to believe this historic field had never had a sectional playoff win played here. But you got to remember, as Coach Mike Mancini, one of the assistant coaches for GW, pointed out, back in the day, there wasn't sectionals. They would play the old Northern Adirondack League, and then they would have the division winners play in what was called the Northern Adirondack League Small School Super Bowl or the Northern Adirondack League Large School Super Bowl. So a lot of the era, there was no sectionals. So when you look at it that way, you go, oh, yeah, guess there never was really a sectional game here played, but a historic win for GW on Saturday. CJ Monty finished with 294 yards on 42 carries and 5 touchdowns for GW, of course, his load, and we're going to talk to him about this later on in the show. His load obviously increasing because of the injury to his fullback, Brandon Beaver. And so that put the team really on the shoulders of CJ, and he was about 90% of the offense in the most of the game. I was going to say in the second half, but Beaver actually got hurt on the second play of the football game offensively for GW. So our second play of the football game. So obviously a big loss right away. But Monty carried the ball 42 times. As I said, 294 yards, 5 scores. He had 3 one-yard touchdown runs and then put the game away with a 10-yard touchdown run and a 40-yard touchdown run to help lead GW to that 34-14 win. A.J. Landon moved to fullback to replace the injured Brandon Beaver. He played a strong game on both sides of the ball. Defensively, on the broadcast, it seems like we were calling A.J. Landon's name constantly. As a matter of fact, at one point I said, if I was them in the locker room at halftime, if I was Johnstown, I'd be saying, somebody better block number 57 because right now he's blowing things up. He's dominating. And then he moved to fullback in the second half and was part of the lead blocking for that power running game. So outstanding job for A.J. Landon. A great game for A.J. Landon on Saturday. And Stephen Madison in the secondary. The quarterback, Cole Downing for Johnstown, is a dual threat quarterback. He's one of their main runners, but he can also throw the ball. He's got some very good receivers. And, several times early in the contest, they tried to set the tone by throwing some deep passes, and Stephen Madison made some big plays defensively in the GW secondary. So he also had a very strong game for GW on Saturday. Speaking of the quarterback, Cole Downing for Johnstown, he had 2 touchdown runs for the Sir Bills. Jonathan Swartwout paced Johnstown with 121 yards on 16 rushing attempts. Downing completed 7 of 16 passes for 105 yards, and he also ran for 72 yards for the Sir Bills. Granville-Whitehall moved to 6-2 on the season, and for the second straight year, they're going to the Class C semifinals as they will take on Fonda-Fultonville on Friday night in Fonda, trying to make it to that Class C Super Bowl. And, they're capable of beating that team. They lost a close 35-30 game to them during the season in which they were 0 for 5 on conversions. And if they had just been 3 for 5 on conversions, they win that football game. So, that's going to be a heck of a football game, and we'll have it right here for you on NYVT Media Sports on Friday night. Cambridge-Salem tuned up for sectional play on Saturday. They beat Class A Bethlehem Central, stepping up to take on a Class A team when you're a Class D team. Quite a challenge for Cambridge-Salem. They got the job done over the Eagles of Bethlehem Central, 27-26 in a Section 2 crossover contest. Stephen Yakubek tossed a pair of touchdown passes, ran for another for Cambridge-Salem. Preston Peabody return an interception 20 yards for a score. Miles Madison and Jackson Rowland were on receiving ends of touchdown passes from Yakubek as they both played solid games for Cambridge-Salem. Dan Leach ran for 2 touchdowns, passed for another for Bethlehem. Yakubek completed 11 of 30 passes for 216 yards. Rowland rushed for 69 yards for Cambridge-Salem. Leach led the Eagles, completing 11 of 23 passing attempts for 204 yards, rushing for 68 yards for Bethlehem. Cambridge-Salem is 8-1 and will be the number 2 seed behind Greenwich in the Class D playoffs. In other scores last week, in Class C sectional play, Hoosick Falls Tamarack, mild upset here. They took down Cobleskill-Richmondville 27-10. Cobleskill-Richmondville had defeated them in the regular season in a very, very tight contest. This game got moved to a neutral site field in Johnstown because of the bad rain on Thursday and Friday to play on the artificial turf. And really, this was a game that wasn't as close as that score really shows. The Wildcats of Hoosick Falls Tamarack really dominated that game right from the start, and they'll advance on, and they'll play Schuylerville. Schuylerville cruised past Hudson 58-0. The defending Class C state champion Black Horses, the number 1 seed in the playoffs, advanced to play Hoosick Falls Tamarack on Friday night. And it was Fonda-Fultonville blanking Waterville Heatley to advance to take on GW on Friday night. And Fonda-Fultonville, like Schuylerville, also unbeaten on the season. In Class B, these are regular season games in Class B. Ravenna Queens Selkirk over Chatham-Ichabod Crane, 28-0. That gives the Ravens the number 2 seed in Class B. Averill Park defeated Gloversville. That score, by the way, also 28-0. And the Golden Knights will be the 3 seed as they tied with Ravenna Queens Selkirk, but RCS gets the tiebreaker because they beat Averill Park head-to-head, a game we broadcasted here on NYVT Media Sports, 14-13 earlier in the season. Ticonderoga blanked Warrensburg Lake George in a crossover game, 33-0. Over on the Vermont side, congratulations to the Poultney Blue Devils. We did 3 Poultney Blue Devil games this season. And they finished the regular season 0-8. They played a crossover game last week against Missisquoi, and they took down the Thunderbirds by a score of 50-0, a dominating win. So what a great way for Coach Andrew Breding, who I understand is not returning next year, and for those 9 seniors out of the 22 on the roster, after a very frustrating season, not being able to get a win, to not only pick up a win, but win in dominating fashion. That must have been a happy celebration in Poultney. By the way, their girls soccer team won the first ever state championship in school history the same day as they won 1-0 over Winooski. So it was a really big day in Poultney last weekend on Saturday. And Fairhaven advanced to the Division II semifinals in the Vermont State playoffs as they defeated U32 by a score of 35-0. So Fairhaven will move on in the playoffs in Division II in Vermont. And so that's last week's scores here on First and 10. We're going to come right back in a bit, and we're going to be joined by some folks from the Valley Hawks of Fonda-Fultonville, and we'll do that right after this. And welcome back to First and 10 with Keith Harrington. I'm your host, Keith Harrington, and if you didn't notice, we're at a different location than we originally started the show, as we're now here at Fonda-Fultonville High School. And joining me right now is head football coach Mike Mancini. And thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to come spend some time with us.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
And big game, obviously. They're all big games at this point of the season. Big game coming up on Friday night as Granville-Whitehall comes in here, a rematch. And they gave you a pretty tough game the first time around, 35-30.
Yeah, they're a physical football team. The Monty kids are really, really good back. And, he's tough to stop. I don't think anybody's really stopped him this year. So we'll have a work cut out for us. I mean, he was a handful the first time around, and I'm sure, everybody's fighting for their lives at this point in the season. So, it'll be a physical affair.
It's interesting with CJ because we always say on the broadcast of the games, everybody knows what's coming, but it's easier said than done to stop it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's just a tough kid, and their offensive line is big and physical, as you said. They're a big physical team.
Yeah.
You guys, go ahead.
Their offensive line, they've done an outstanding job this year. They're physical, they're athletic too. It's a difficult matchup for sure.
So you guys 9-0 on the season now. What's been the key to your success this year?
I think it's just the growth that we've had over the course of the season. I think we're a different football team now than we were, week 2 when we saw these guys, and we've gotten better. We've had a lot of younger guys and guys that are inexperienced step up and gain a wealth of experience over the course of the season. They've done a great job and handled the roles that they've been given.
And, of course, you've got a pretty good running back in your own right. And that's an understatement to say that, Colin Pickering. But, I think one of the keys probably on Friday night is going to be, obviously you're going to be gearing up for CJ. They're going to be gearing up for Colin, right? So one of the keys is going to be other guys stepping up and playing big.
Yeah, I think, obviously we have the capability to throw the football a little bit. So Braden Wasink, we're expecting him to, do some things for us offensively and our receiving core. With Henry Sweet and Colin Rose and Matt Ohout, they've had a really great year this year. So, hopefully they can make some plays on the perimeter and take a little bit of heat off of Colin.
And then, of course, we were at the Cobleskill game a few weeks ago, and that was a big game. That certainly could have gone either way and could have maybe changed your season a little bit. You guys came away with the big win in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great win. That's a rivalry game for us. There's a lot of familiarity between us and them. We see each other. A lot of levels and a lot of other sports. So, we're very attuned to what they do and they are to what we do. So it was a great game. It was an intense atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. Glad to be on the winning side of it.
And of course, a win on Friday night would put you in the Class C Super Bowl against either Schuylerville or Hoosick Falls Tamarack. The Wildcats pulled off a big upset over Cobleskill. Richmondville, I don't know, it was 27-27 game last time they played, but they certainly looked really, really good in that game. So it'll be interesting to see how that game with Schuylerville comes out.
Yeah, I think it'll be a physical matchup between both teams. They obviously both like to run the football, and Hoosick Falls has done some things to tweak what they do offensively to be a little bit more physical. And play to their personnel and their strengths right now. So I think that'll be a good football game for both teams.
All right. Well, we know you got practice to get ready for here, to get ready for tomorrow night's big game. But we appreciate you spending some time with us here this afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Appreciate you having me.
All right. Mike Mancini, head football coach here at Fonda-Fultonville High School, getting ready for tomorrow night's big Section 2 Class C semifinal game right here at Fonda-Fultonville. And we'll have it right here on NYVT Media Sports. And we're going to be back in just a bit with running back Colin Pickering. So stay with us here on First and 10 with Keith Harrington. And welcome back here to Fonda-Fultonville High School. This is First and 10. I'm your host, Keith Harrington. And joining me right now is Fonda-Fultonville running back Colin Pickering. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Former player of the game for us here from back earlier in the season when they defeated Cobleskill at Richmondville. And I was talking to Coach Mancini, and I said, how big a game was that game for you? I mean, if you guys hadn't pulled that game out in overtime, it would have changed the whole trajectory of your season here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very important game. We wanted to win the division this year, so it was a good feeling to have that done for us and kind of put us on a good path leading into the sectionals.
And so you've got Granville-Whitehall coming up on Friday night, a team you're very familiar with. We were just talking to Athletic Director Eric Wilson is a Granville graduate, and you guys played them earlier in the season here, and it was 35-30, and that was a game that could have gone either way.
Right.
So you expect obviously a really tough game.
Yeah, we're expecting a battle. I mean, we're just preparing to go in there and ready to fight every play and give it everything we got and on every single drive, every play.
And of course, one of the big keys in the last game was their inability to get 2-point conversions or extra points. So that happened to be the key difference. You guys had all your conversions; they missed all their conversions.
Right. Yeah. Our kicker helped us out a lot there, making those extra point conversions and getting those stops were very important for us.
So a lot of people, I'm sure, on the outside looking in, a lot of the fans would say this is going to be a Colin Pickering versus CJ Monty shootout. But some other teammates of yours are probably going to have to step up big here.
No, definitely. It's a game of 11 guys, and all of us are focused and ready to go in there and battle.
I think that's probably what the game is going to come down to is kind of who's supporting cast, who's quarterback, who's receivers that are able to make the big plays
Right.
and take the pressure off of like you and CJ.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a lot of guys involved, and we're just gonna all go in there and either we play 2 snaps, 25 snaps if you get the ball every play, or you get the ball a couple times a game. It's just everyone's gonna do their role and do it to the best of their ability.
Now, last time a high-scoring game, 35-30. I think the weather's not going to be the greatest from what I've heard tomorrow night. What kind of a game do you expect? Do you expect another high-scoring game, a lower-scoring game?
I mean, yeah, I'm expecting another shootout definitely, but yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes, see how the weather turns out, and see who comes to play and who doesn't.
So the other semifinal game is Schuylerville versus Hoosick Falls Tamarack. Hoosick Falls Tamarack avenged a loss to Cobleskill Richmondville to get to the semifinals. Schuylerville's defending state champions. How important and how good would it be to get to that championship game and get another shot at the sectional title?
I mean, yeah, that'd be pretty awesome, but we're looking at just tomorrow's game and really focusing on that, and then things that come later is what we worry about later. But right now, we're all about Granville.
Well, I know that Coach Mancini wants you to get out there and get practice to get prepared for tomorrow's game. We expect it's going to be a great one. Make sure you join us right here. We'll have the broadcast on NYVT Media Sports kickoff 7 o'clock. And thanks for spending some time with us. Good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you.
All right, Colin Pickering, running back here for Fonda-Fultonville High School, joining us on 1st and 10 with Keith Harrington. We'll be right back. And welcome back to 1st and 10 with Keith Harrington here on NYVT Media Sports. And joining me right now is Granville-Whitehall running back and linebacker CJ Monty. CJ, nice to see you once again. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And, so looking back at the game on Saturday, first of all, it was awesome to have a Saturday afternoon game here at Eppolito Field in Granville. I know from a broadcaster standpoint, seeing the numbers down on the field and all that, it was awesome. It was like old days when I probably broadcasted hundreds of games here on radio in the daylight. But first thing that happens, you and Brandon Beaver are 1-2 punch and deadly 1-2 punch really. And first thing that happens, 2 plays into the game, he goes down, and that must have been devastating.
Yeah, no, we weren't really planning on that. That really scared us for a little bit, but we got together in the huddle and we're like, we gotta do it for beef now. We gotta do it for beef.
And then I thought he was going to be able to come back in. I said up in the booth, I said, they're retaping him. I hope that's a good sign because it was so severe that he wasn't coming back. They wouldn't bother retape him, but then I know he tried to go on it and it was just not doable.
Beef, he hates getting hurt. He hates missing out. So, he tried everything he could. His ankle didn't let him.
So that put more pressure or more workload on you, obviously, and it made their defense focus more on you. But how'd you get it done?
Great blocking. That was the key to the game. I mean, I would get down 5 yards down the field, and I'd feel my lineman pushing me more and more. We just keep going. The line was incredible. AJ Landon, he really stepped up with blocking. Very impressed with him, and I'm proud of him. And our whole line, Patrick Egan, I saw him a lot just down the field or pushing me from the back. And Ethan Studley, really, I got to give a lot of credit to Ethan Studley. He was always there pushing.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that broadcasting the game. That was probably the key of the game right there.
Oh, 100%.
Every time you were downfield and we thought that you were stopped, those guys were hustling downfield and pushing the pile, getting you more yardage. They were outstanding.
My God, it was incredible. It was great. It was Saturday. It was like Mechanicsville. It was a very great team effort.
And you talked about A.J. Landon with his offensive line, then he ended up having to go play fullback for you.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of guys that could play multiple spots, and AJ was he's one of those guys that step up all the time. You know, he doesn't care where he is on the field; he just wants to play.
And he has actually 44. He's 57/44 on the roster. He's played some fullback in the past.
Oh yeah, no, he's played he played a lot of fullback and modified, and then when he came up, he would play a little bit on JV, but this year we needed him on the line. He said, "Coach, I'll do it." And that's where he's been.
And he had a dominating effort on defense, too. It seemed like he was in the backfield as much as their quarterback was.
Oh, my God. Every time I turned the corner, I had to see AJ getting a tackle. And AJ really, he made me proud, so he really did.
Yeah, you go back and listen to the broadcast of the game, and constantly I'm saying, it's A.J. Landon once again. It's A.J. Landon once again.
He did incredible.
And another guy that I thought had a really good game, because they're a passing team. They can pass the ball. Downing is a good passing quarterback. Steven Madison, I thought, was great in the secondary.
You know, Steven, he didn't play football last year for his first time, I think, since he started playing back when we were little. And he's never played corner before. He's always been linebacker, and this year he really stepped up, and he's impressed me a lot. From not playing last year to getting put in a new spot he's never played, he really stepped up big, and he's a big key to our defense.
So now you get another shot at Fonda-Fultonville in the semifinals on Friday night. Lost to them 35-30 during the season. But if you look back on that game, that's a game you could have won. You guys went 0 for 5 on conversions. If you make your conversions, you win that game like 40-35.
Yeah, you know, it sucked losing to them in the regular season, but I think losing to them is what we needed because it's going into this game. It's fueling our fire up. It's getting us ready. It's all week. All I can think about is this game. You know, I really have a lot of respect for Fonda. They're a great team, and you know, win or lose, I hope we win. But that's the game I want all year is just Fonda, because it's always going to be an exciting game.
Right, and they've got their star running back, of course, Pickering, who's, you know, he's an outstanding. He was like yourself, he's a former Lake Champlain Coal Company player of the game for us here at NYVT Media Sports when they beat Cobleskill the night they beat Cobleskill. So, you know, going up against him again, you guys are on opposite sides, but both of you are going to try to put up the biggest numbers you can.
Oh, yeah. No, Colin's he's a really good running back, really good player. He has a lot of vision for the game, a lot of heart for the game, so all respect to him.
And they're not just one-dimensional, though. I mean, we saw them against Cobleskill Richmondville. That game went to overtime. They won in overtime 20-14, but the Wasik kid can throw the ball.
Yeah, no, they have a good team all around. They can pass, they can run. You know, they have good blockers up front. So I think they're a lot like Johnstown. They can run, read options, they can run passes, they can run just straight down the field. You know, it's a really good team that can do it all.
All right, so what's going to be the key on Friday night if you guys want to advance to the final?
A lot of people think it's our offense, but it's going to be defense. Our defense is a step up big time. You know, we just need to keep playing like we just did against Johnstown, Mechanicsville. The way our defense been playing, I'm really not too worried. But our defense big time in our secondary.
All right, well, we'll be there doing the game on Friday night, doing the live stream, and we look forward to seeing you. Good luck.
Yeah, I can't wait.
All right. CJ Monty from Granville-Whitehall Football joining us, and we'll be in Fonda on Friday night to bring you that game live here on NYVT Media Sports. We'll take a look at the entire playoff schedule when we come back. And welcome back to First and 10 with Keith Harrington. I'm your host, Keith Harrington. And now we're going to take a look at the games coming up this week on the playoff schedule as we hit the semifinals in all divisions. And let's start with Class B on Friday night. It's a rematch of a game that we had on the air earlier in the season. Ravenna-Queens-Selkirk 7-2, hosting Averill Park 7-2. And that should be a great football game, as when they played before, it was 14-13. RCS coming away with the win on a touchdown with less than 5 minutes to go. A touchdown pass from Mason Cartner to J.P. Foy. And then it was Tyler Haslam making a big defensive play, swatting down what looked like it was going to be an AP touchdown in the end zone. And then the Ravens covered a fumble a couple plays later and were able to come away with the 14-13 win when they met in the regular season. And that's actually the difference between home field advantage and not. That's the 2 seed versus the 3 seed as Averill Park 7-2 visits Ravenna-Queens-Selkirk 7-2 at 7 p.m. on Friday night. The other semifinal in Class B is the number 4 seed Shelmont, the Sabres, finishing with a record of 6-3, and they will travel to Glens Falls to take on the unbeaten 9-0 Black Bears of Glens Falls Friday night. That game at 7 p.m. The winners will face in the championship game next Saturday at 3:30 at Shenendehowa High School, and maybe we'll get another Ravenna Glens Falls rematch. It seems like every year in Class B, the Ravens and the Black Bears find themselves there in that Class B championship game. Class C, it's Hoosick Falls Tamarack 4-4 at Schuylerville 8-0. And that game is at 7 p.m. on Friday night. And of course, the game we've been talking about all show long here, the other semifinal, Granville-Whitehall with a record of 6-2 is at 9-0. Fonda-Fultonville at 7 p.m. on Friday night. The other Class C semifinal, we'll have that game right here for you on NYVT Media Sports. And the championship game will be held on Saturday, November 15th at noon at Shenendehowa. Class D playoffs get underway this weekend, and I think everybody out there is probably thinking if this isn't Cambridge-Salem versus Greenwich in the championship game, it'll be absolutely stunning. The semifinals begin on Friday night as the number 4 seed Kennedy Fort Plain with a record of 4 wins, 5 losses goes to Greenwich to take on the number 1 unbeaten 8-0 Witches. A 7 p.m. kickoff in that one. Of course, Greenwich unbeaten against 4 and 5 Kennedy Fort Plain. They're going to be big favorites to advance to the Class D final. And then on Saturday, it's the number 3 seed Stillwater-Saratoga Catholic with a record of 5-4, going to number 2 Cambridge-Salem. Cambridge-Salem is 7-2. That game at Cambridge at 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. And the championship game for Class D will be held on Friday night, November 14th. And the information I got, I didn't get the, unfortunately, the site and the time of that game, so we'll have to stay tuned to get that. Over on the Vermont side of the border, we talked about Poultney getting their first win. We've still got one local team in action, and that would be the Fairhaven Slaters. Fairhaven will travel to White River Junction, Vermont, to meet the number 1 and unbeaten Hartford Hurricanes and the Vermont Division II semifinals. Of course, it's been much discussed. Hartford moving down from Division I to Division II this year. And, you know, we talked about that earlier in the season. Averill Park won Class A last year in Section 2 and moved down to Class B. And they actually are only the 3rd seed, you know, as we were talking about. But, you know, they haven't been dominating moving down a division, but not that way over in Vermont. Hartford moved down from Division I to Division II. The Hurricanes have been running amok, basically, over the Division I teams, over the Division II teams, I should say, after moving down from Division I. The Slaters lost to the Hurricanes 33-0 back on September 5th. So that'll be a rematch, but you know, Fairhaven's a much healthier team. They had a lot of injuries early in the season. They struggled early in the season. I had Sam Cahill. We interviewed Sam after the Fairhaven game that we broadcasted against Mount Anthony a few weeks ago, and he said we're not the same team as we were early in the season. We had a lot of injuries. We're healthier, more ready to go. So even though Hartford has been dominating since moving down this year and has that 33-0 win over the Slaters earlier in the season, it'll be interesting to see how Fairhaven matches up with them now here in the state semifinals this coming weekend. And that's pretty much it for the schedule coming up. We have less and less games because as we eliminate teams, there's less and less teams still playing high school football, as a championship weekend is just a week away after the semifinals wrap up this weekend on both sides of the border. That's going to wrap it up here for this week's edition of First and 10. I'm your host, Keith Harrington. Thanks for joining us once again. Is this going to be our last show of the season? Well, we haven't made that decision yet. I think a lot of that's going to depend on what happens this week and who's still alive after this weekend in the playoffs, and then we'll go from there. But we certainly have enjoyed you all joining us all season long, and it seems like it's been a long time since we did that first show back in the studio, but it went by very, very quickly. So that's going to wrap it up. I'm Keith Harrington saying so long for NYVT Media Sports, and we'll see you out at the fields this weekend.